I'm recording this one much earlier than usual, but you know, I what do I want to say? What do I want to say? I'm glad I got everything out that I did yesterday, and man, I am the app that I use to message that creative type job for hiring. Right now, I'm about to pop it open and not specifically to check the message, but inevitably, if there is a message, hold on, Karen. Inevitably, if there is a message, I'll see the indicator, and man, I am just scared to open up this app. It's been about 2 days since the person said they would check on the links I provided and the examples and so on. And this morning I finally, did the checkup, like, hey, how's it going? Good afternoon, wondering how, so on and so forth. And oh yeah, I got the follow-up call from the guy from the course, and I told him, I won't be able to afford it. So unless something pops up in the future, I'm not going to be able to do that class, which, inevitable. I had a feeling that was going to be the case. So, moving on to the next thing. I'm here, with this journal. Come with me in real time. Excuse me. My apologies. I must have been gross, but I am so scared right now that I'm going to open up this app and see a message and poke on it and just see rejection. After all this, just but I've got to be big about it. I've got to, it can only happen once. I click on it and then it's over, and then I can move on. So here I go. Is there any message? Okay. There's no message at the moment. They usually don't respond until later. Okay. It says that they're online, but yeah, they don't usually respond till way later in the day. So, so far so good. Okay. You got to join me for that. But right now I'm just gonna go ahead and post that thing I wanted to post, and move on to the next thing. Oh shoot, I just realized I'm gonna have to pick music. And picking the music is probably going to pause the recording, so there'll probably be a little cut. Let's see, maybe I know a piece of music ahead of time and I can just click it and select it. But I think inevitably when I select it, it's going to pull up. I'm gonna sneeze. I'm sneezing. Here I go. Excuse me. Ugh, that was messy. Ugh. Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. I'm not getting sick. Something got in my nose, like some dust or something. Anyway, so you could join me. I can join me on this journal as I make this post. Let's see. Drawing. Yeah, here. I'll even. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. One more time. Hold on. How embarrassing. 2, 3, 4. Phew! Excuse me. Well, I won't tell you what I'm typing out, but I'll give context. It's one of the drawings that I did over the course of one of those drawing streams. One of those 8-hour ones. One of those ones where I skipped a journal day to work on it. I held on it for a little bit so I could fix up one of the other drawings that were in it so that I would be able to post it. And today I went in and I fixed up that drawing. I did some corrections, fixed a weird shoulder that was like really off, and just instituted a few corrections and got it patched up. So now I can post this, and then later on I'll end up posting that. And I'm very proud of how it came out. Very proud. I've been very pleased with figuring out the pens and the settings on Clip Studio Paint. You see, a long time ago, I just drew on my phone solely. I used Samsung Notes, and I spent hours upon hours cleaning up lines with, drawing a black line and then drawing, a colored or a white line to correct that, and then erasing it slightly. Took hours. Looked nice. But, just, man. And using Clip... I had... the funny thing is I had this drawing tablet at the time. Yeah, I didn't use it because I was scared to, get into the program and have all the options. And now I'm using it. I'm using it proper. And I'm getting used to the pen, and I am just so pleased. Getting used to the pens, and I am very pleased with just how the line art is looking, and... I gotta go, blow my nose. I am sorry, I don't mean to make that noise. Anyway, I've gotten to the point of me making this post now where I'm gonna have to add music, and it is going to pause it. I am 90% sure. So, I'll come back in just a second. Okay, I'm back. I'm a little... It's about, what would I say, 2 hours since the first part of recording this. I had to take care of a few responsibilities after I had, posted what I was posting. And, still nothing back from the potential job. I had a good dream about it yesterday, so I'm hoping. I really am hoping. And, still got a few... I've been thinking I should probably start labeling the number of the journal that I'm doing. Wouldn't that be helpful? Instead of guessing. I'm just wondering if I do that, if I should go back and relabel all the other ones, update it all to say, Journal 1, Journal 2, or Day 1, Day 2, that kind of thing, Come on, you. Down you go. You can't be up there. But I'm wondering if I should update the titles to say what day it is or which journal it is, just for my convenience. But, anyway, yeah, so I got a few more responsibilities to take care of today. That remote job I was talking about yesterday that I could potentially have right now, it is currently processing tax information, like a W-9. It's currently processing a W-9, so that'll be it's got the payout method and processing the W-9, and it's yeah, so anyway, it's processing, and hopefully by tomorrow, or hopefully sometime in this week, I'd be able to start working some hours on that and see if I can make some money from that as well. But today's idea I had is I would like to go through and read some ideas that are actually written down, like actually written, and but I just they're previous ideas I mentioned where it was time to let them go and just leave them behind, and take the fertilizer from those, the metaphorical fertilizer, and move on to using that to help grow the next thing that was more aligned with what I had learned and what I had been working on, and just letting these older projects go instead of them wasting time and energy and things like that. But that doesn't mean they just have to sit in my docs and do nothing. So I would like to at least read at least two today. At least two. One of them's pretty short. The other one's about 24 pages long. So let's see what happens there. Maybe I'll split that into two parts. But anyway, so the first one that I'm going to read is a short story that I was writing, and then it just the style was a bit too much for me. I just didn't know what I was doing at the time, and the subject matter isn't necessarily something that jived with me, so I kept running out of steam and just trying to find ways to entertain myself, but then that would keep running out, and it was just a lot. It was just a story I wasn't really interested in. There just came a point where I was, the sort of, what's it called? I've mentioned it. Of course I go to think about it and I forget. The sunk cost fallacy, basically. I already spent time on it, and I shouldn't give up on it. I might as well just work on it, and I already spent all this time, just finish it. That kind of thing. Sunk cost fallacy, when it would be better to just drop it, move on to the next thing, and make a better investment. It'd be more worth it than continuing on, and that's ultimately what I decided on it. But so it's here, and I was writing out of obligation. There just came a point where it was completely out of obligation. I think I was more in love with the idea of writing a short story than I was actually writing a short story that I wanted to write, if that makes sense, which I'm sure it does. So I'm going to go ahead and just read the little bit that I did write for it. Alright, so it is a short story that was called Debt Loves You. DEBTLOVESYOU. Debt Loves You. And I did a thing where, just to see if it was even worth continuing on, I wrote out the entire outline of it, and just to see if I felt anything afterwards, if I wanted to go on. And once I wrote that outline, I realized, there's no... I'm going to be miserable finishing this, basically. It's just not going to work out. If I want to write a short story, let it be one that I'm actually interested in. And since then, I have written stories that have truly captured me and have been more complete and full and whole, and have gone on and have been developed, and people have actually seen and read and experienced, which has been very nice. But I'll go ahead and read this one now. Alright, Debt Loves You. The air conditioning is on. The weather outside is pretty hot, so no wonder why. Let me restart. The air conditioning is on. The weather outside is pretty hot, so no wonder why. A metal fan whirs and jives back and forth to the stride set by the ticking desk clock. The fax machine chimes a duet with the rhythm of the printer. Heartily stammering out another warm page onto the stack like it were piling a great cuboid marble column. Let me read that again. The fax machine chimes a duet with the rhythm of the printer, heartily stammering out another warm page onto the stack like it were piling a great cuboid marble column. A woman is speaking, and in a bit of a paradox, the coffee machine is mingling its own huff of vapor into the air to birth some kind of hygrothermal crossbreed. With obnoxious hybrid vigor, it possesses the properties of both humidity and something of a coronal mass ejection. So it's all the standard model air purifier nearby can do to subdue this preternatural force. This poor neophyte in the face of Hephaestus. If you can't tell, the story was interesting me so little that the best I could think to do was just, entertain myself in the prose and the descriptions. But after a while, even that got, kind of tiring. So, mind my very... colorful descriptions. A woman is speaking, and in a bit of a paradox, the coffee machine is mingling its own huff of vapor into the air to birth some kind of hygrothermal crossbreed. With obnoxious hybrid vigor, it possesses the properties of both tropical humidity and a coronal mass ejection. So it's all the standard model air purifier nearby can do to subdue this preternatural force, this poor neophyte in the face of Hephaestus. A drinking bird toy on the desk attempts to take shelter in a tepid glass of water, but is betrayed by the nature of its very design, in perpetuity forcibly uplifted, peering hazily at a framed family picture, endearing their smiles before returning down to the water. A phone rings. The phone, a sleek device, classic landline model, receiver laid horizontally across the top, buttons arranged in a rectangular numpad on its face. Buttons arranged in a rectangular numpad. Sorry. I've been staring at screens for a while, so it's looking at these small words on this white screen. Let me zoom in a little. That'll help me. Alright. Down you go. Come on. Down you go. Alright. A sleek device. The phone. A sleek device. Classic landline model. Receiver laid horizontally across the top. Buttons arranged in a rectangular pattern. And a rectangular pattern numpad on its face. Fresh black finish and a coiled cord like a long strand of fusilli. The ringing is perfectly tuned and almost musical. A handkerchief gently settles onto the receiver before it is hoisted off the cradle and brought up to an ear. Office of Mayor Nobledet, to whom do I owe the pleasure? So asked in the notably deep voice of the mayor's secretary. The mayor's assistant jots and logs a variety of figures, stats, data points, and numberings behind him onto a whiteboard. There's definitely things to rearrange for more clarity, but, He has fully integrated with the dry erase marker, an extension of his will which leaves no sound in contact with the polished white surface. He has fully integrated with the dry erase marker, an extension of his will which leaves no sound upon contact with the polished white surface, yet its swiftly laid, colorful lines run rich and deep, like silent yet profound whispers. Anyway. Back in the mayor's office, Nobledet half sits, half stands on the front of his desk, playing it cool despite looking like a freshly misted plant. Soft-pedaled part ways by drawn blinds blocking the light that would highlight the glisten on his squarish, clean-shaven face. Boxy brow-line glasses begin to slip from his nose bridge, owing to lost traction, which recover their position with a slight push from the joint of his thumb. A persistent task done with little conscious thought. It's no secret to say that he hasn't been listening to a single thing that the woman sitting in front of him for the past half hour has been saying, but he plays it off well. Behind the woman, the door between Det's office and the lobby, the secretary, and the assistant is wide open. For several motives, not the least of which is circulation. His coffee is ready. Professional that he is, he pays the woman the compliments of a cordial nod, and the proper correspondences of eye contact. Every calculation maintained in the reflex of his mind's eye. The coffee machine sounds out its harsh, augural fussing. Det walks over to the coffee machine, but notices the stack of paper being blown by the fan, and turns it down remotely. Oh, this is the part where it's just the outline of the thing now. Anyway. But I'll still read it like, Det walks over to the coffee machine, but notices the stack of paper being blown by the fan, and turns it down remotely, which humorously seems to make the woman go quieter somehow, as if the remote is also controlling her. He looks back at her, slightly concerned, and turns the fan back up, and her speaking also returns to normal. As he sets the remote down and looks at his coffee, close up on picking the coffee cup, Noble walks behind the desk, carefully carrying the mug, and sits. An amateurish portrait hangs behind him on the wall. It somewhat resembles him. It was drawn by his daughter, and is in place of where the normal mayoral portrait would go. His eyes half squint from the heat as he takes a long, quiet drink while looking at the woman. He sends a subtle look towards the secretary. Secretary looks at Noble. He's still taking the call while he types with his free hand. Noble looks back towards the woman and sets the mug down. He brings his hands together on the desk in an official manner. The woman, saying, "I'm at the end of my tether, I don't know what else to do about it." A few seconds of silence later, as Noble tries to hold a looking invested expression, and gently nods his head as she waits for him to respond. He swallows the coffee. Light inhale. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll see if there's anything I can do. Lobby hallway. Woman steps out of the office as Noble grabs his overcoat and follows. They walk to the secretary's desk. The secretary presses a keyboard button, and the printer starts up. The woman says, "So it's all right if I call for a follow-up at a later time." Noble Det says, "Patch it through to this phone right here." He kind of harshly taps the phone, which causes it to ring a little. "This phone right here in about a week, and either one of us will get you updated about this." Secretary hands Noble the back page from the printed papers. He scans it over quickly and hands it back to the secretary. It is implied that the printed paper is a transcript of what the woman was saying as Noble Det was not paying attention. Noble Det to secretary. "Excellent, in quotes, fiscal report." Hands him back the paper. Secretary says, "Your sister called. She's here, but I said you need a few more minutes." The woman asks, "Leaving early? Something special?" Noble Det says it is, an event that only comes around once a year. Noble looks at the assistant and motions to him. The assistant makes references to the re-election campaign and to a man named Preston. Det says, "Hold on that for now. There are more important things to worry about." The assistant looks disappointed and sadly turns the whiteboard around after telling the secretary what the last number he was on in the middle of writing. The secretary writes it down on a sticky note or a notepad. The whiteboard is turned around and reveals a large dry erase sketch with plans on what to get Noble's wife for her birthday. They discuss with the woman for a moment, then she disappears when they look away. Det walks out of the building and meets his sister outside, ready with the car to take him to the store. She mentions that she saw the woman walking away. Det gets in the car, and his sister drives away from the building. As they are driving, they see all of the signage that Preston, full name Preston Honig, has left around. The taglines, "Get out of debt" and "Go Honig or go home" are prominent. The Det siblings arrive at the store and see a big painting of Preston's face on a billboard on the side of the store and more excessive amounts of signage. Noble is about to step in when a nearby payphone starts ringing, even though nobody is around. He's going to ignore it when somebody nearby, sitting by the store, an old man, tells Det that the call is for him. The old man was paid a couple of bucks to wait there and tell Det that so he wouldn't end up missing the call. Noble has no idea what the call is about, and neither does the old man. Det picks up the phone and quickly gets into an annoyed back and forth with Preston, who starts bragging about how expensive his gifts and possessions are. Preston pretends like he has eyes everywhere as he describes what Det is doing. Det calls his bluff and looks around the parking lot before his sister points at Preston's car, which she has been looking at the entire time since she got out of her car. Noble points at Preston's car and calls him out over the phone. Preston quickly drives away and hangs up. They get into the store and split up. They have to get back home before his wife gets off work and returns. The sister manages to be done shopping before him. He gets what he needs and heads to the register. He grabs a snack his sister really likes. He waits in line and then chats it up friendly with the cashier, who is dressed in a bit of like a punk fashion, who got help from him to help advance her with something. But I was thinking something like maybe like a college thing, or he helped support her in some way with something that she needed. He gets what he needs and heads to the register, grabs a snack his sister really likes. He waits in line, then chats it up friendly with the punk cashier, who got help from Det to help her advance with something. He's in a bit of payment straits, left his card, but has cash. "What do I owe you?" he would say. She notices that he's having, some issues with, like, the money. So another thing is that a sort of, like, repeated phrase throughout this short story would be, "What do I owe you?" So there would be different instances of characters saying, "What do I owe you?" Him saying, "What do I owe you?" "What do I owe you?" "To whom do I owe what do I owe this visit?" Different variations of that. But anyway, the cashier notices and uses olives to cut the cost. The jar says 100% pitted olives, but she sees one olive with a pit. She counts it as a defective jar, kind of false advertising, because there's one pitted olive still in there, even though it says 100% off, so she counts it as, like, defective product, and so she subtracts the cost. This leaves him with enough to pay for everything with his cash. He goes back to the car with snacks and groceries. Preston calls him on his cell phone and begins taunting him again about his wife. Det starts calling him out for being petty and spiteful, and that's why he's doing everything he's doing. Preston denies it, but Det says he'll get his daughter to go canvassing for public opinion on him and whether or not he is petty and spiteful. They argue over his daughter until Det finally tells him that he's hanging up. The two siblings sit in the car and chat about Preston and about Noble Det's wife. Sister asks about his daughter, and he says that they told him they had a ride home from school. It would then cut to the sisters in costumes because they're in their, like, theater club at the school. They look around towards people who are unseen and say, "All right, let's make this quick and as realistic as possible." And then it would reveal that she's surrounded by the rest of the theater group in costumes, and they are holding bats and other objects. They circle in on her to beat her up, while the little sister pulls out her phone and tells it to call their uncle. It would then cut away. Det and his sister end up in a traffic jam, where it turns out that Preston set up a scene where the police would have to go help and would end up holding up traffic as a result. Someone else he paid to cause an incident. Det runs out to go help, because he is the mayor, and, he has principles. So Det runs out to go help, and his sister runs to the phone store. So basically, they weren't able to find a good gift for his wife at the other store, so they were thinking of going to the phone store. Only it turns out that the phone store doesn't actually stock the phones in the store. All the phones in the store are actually only for the display, and they have to order the phones just like a customer would have to online. And they'll just show you how to buy, and if you go to the store to try and buy a phone, the most they'll do is just show you how to buy it yourself off your phone or a computer. The companies aren't actually confident that they'll sell stock in the stores. The cashier tells Det's sister the companies aren't actually confident that they'll actually sell the stock in the stores, so they just won't send them to the stores. And then, like, Noble Det's sister questions this. So she isn't able to buy one as one of the gifts that Noble wanted to get his wife. She makes it back to the car, but the traffic is slowly clearing, but not fast enough. A taxi driver is there and tells Det to hop in. The sister says she'll meet up with him in a bit. Det hops into the taxi, and the taxi driver almost manages to start a conversation with Det, but he knows the streets and secret routes so well that he gets Det home before they can actually start a conversation and talk about anything. Det thanks him and runs inside and starts getting things ready. The grandparents are there sleeping. People start to arrive, and Det ushers them into another room in the back. He hides in a giant present. His wife arrives, and he tries to surprise her, and she is surprised, but as she's expressing it, he's holding out his arms to get a hug from her. And he just turns his body to watch as she, in a pre-programmed way, enacts all of her homecoming habits, while also saying and doing things excitedly. And I wrote that kind of weird. Enacts all of her home habits, while also telling him how much she loves him, and saying all kinds of stuff and being excited. But at the same time, her body is like going around the house. You know, she's looking at him, but she's walking around the house, taking off her jacket, folding her clothes. So while her head is doing one thing, her body is just enacting all her habits to a comical amount of depth. So she like walks around, takes off her jacket, and meanwhile she's like, "Oh my gosh, I love you so much, thank you, oh my goodness," you know, doing all that stuff. Meanwhile, her arms are just automatically, you know, removing her jacket, hanging it up, taking her shoes off, walking into the kitchen, serving herself a glass of water, putting her snacks on the stove, heating up the stove, switching into her like home shirt. You know, she's like doing all these habits. Even preparing her after-work snack on the stove. And then after all that, she just walks in a straight line right towards him to give him a hug. So after all that, and in the meantime, he's just holding out his arms, just watching her. His body's just kind of swiveling in the box, just waiting for her to finally stop and walk towards him so that he could hug her. And so it happens, and they hug. And the party can start. And then, after the party starts, his daughters arrive with Preston. He was slowed down by having to go and pick up the girls. They are his favorite nieces. As it turns out, Preston is actually Noble Det's brother-in-law. And Noble Det's wife's brother. So it just turns out that he just doesn't like Noble Det and thinks that he's bad for his sister and thinks that she could have done better. And he was just trying... This whole thing has just been about trying to sabotage him and make him look undesirable to his wife. You know, make him look pathetic. And his daughters, they staged getting beat up to drag him away from getting to the house first, before Noble Det could arrive, and all manner of stuff. But anyway, his daughters arrive with Preston. He was slowed down by having to go and pick up the girls. They're his favorite nieces. Preston was freaked out by what he thought he saw, which was a bunch of costumed theater kids beating up his two nieces. Anyway, the sister arrives late. Noble Det's sister arrives late and saves Det in time with a present to give to his wife. His sister also has a gift that she bought to give to his wife. Preston and Det head to the back and hash it out and come to an agreement. Preston elaborates on the scope of his expenses. He attempts to ask Det for a handout, but Det refuses. Preston says he'll just ask his sister then. Det says that she wouldn't do it. The littlest daughter and Preston and Det walk back into the main room, still arguing. A few moments later, the littlest daughter comes into the room after a moment when the two men leave and grabs her mom's wallet from her purse, having been asked by Preston secretly to go fetch it for him so he could convince his sister to help him cover all his expenses. But the little girl, the daughter, is kindly intercepted by Det, who gives her a kiss on the forehead, puts the wallet back, let me rearrange that. So, is kindly intercepted by Det, who is her father, who puts the wallet back in the purse, gives her a kiss on the forehead, leads her back out, gives her a little nudge back into the main area, and heads back to the room where the rest of the party is going on. And that would have been... That's the end of the short story. That would have been the end of it. You know, something cute. Something cute. It's one of those things where I like the idea of it, but it wasn't necessarily something that I actually wanted to write. If that makes sense. You know, I think the most I would do with this is if it was like a short film, you know. But, you know, in terms of being a short story, like, nah, it just wasn't something that I really was invested in or wanted to continue on, you know. So I wrote out the outline and I was just like, okay, that's it. I'm ready to move on to something else. But, anyway. So, next, I will read something that I actually did finish. Something that I actually completed. And this was done for when I was at the very beginning of when I was in that film course. It's ridiculous. I took a whole film course, came out of it with almost no networking. I am certified to work on film sets and make money off of it, and then I live in a place where that just doesn't happen anymore. It was only good for where I was living when I took the course, and then it's a whole thing. It has to do with the other person, but I'm not gonna get it. I'll just keep that to myself. Anyway. It has to do with the other person and paranoia and all kinds of stuff. Anyway. So I actually did finish this. It actually is completed. It's rough. I wasn't very well-to-do when it came to writing at this point. Unpracticed. It was, I'm pretty sure it was the first assignment that I wrote for that film class. And this wasn't like what I was talking about the other day. This wasn't like the thing I was talking about yesterday with an acclaimed awarded writer with guaranteed networking, portfolio pieces, assignments. No, this is like a basic film college course program. So it was just like, you know, making little things. At most we would get like a big group project, but nothing to put on a portfolio. In terms of networking, it was just with like other students, and they didn't care. And the teacher himself, like, you know, he was the teacher, but he hadn't really done anything, you know. He had, as I have come to learn, and was kind of obvious at the time, he had and has nothing to offer, really, in terms of, like, yeah. There was nothing. Unfortunately, I'm glad for all the experience it gave me, but it didn't really provide me any opportunity, in addition to leaving the place where it would have been most useful in the first place. So, yeah. It gave me experience, but there's just no one looking for anything that I really have. And, there's just no opportunity. So, despite, you know, I put what I could from it on a resume, but it wasn't much. It was mostly just learning with little actual to show for it, if that makes sense. Including, like, what was actually done in the course, you know. Not much. You know, it's like taking a arithmetic class. Not arithmetic, but, like, algebra. It's like taking an algebra class. you're not actually solving anything for a job. You're just doing assignments and learn. You can't put your homework assignment on your portfolio. That's the best way I would put the equivalent of what this is. But anyway, I would like to read this because this is actually something that I did finish. And it's 24 pages long. It is a screenplay. It was the first one I wrote, so it is rough. The language is rough, the pacing is rough, the dialogue is rough. This was years ago at this point that I wrote this. And, yeah, so I'll go ahead and read it. I believe there's 2 versions. I'd like to select the updated one. Sketches, summaries, campaign guide. Here it is. It is called The World Quest Vagabonds, Draft 2, written by, well, me. I'm not going to tell you my name. I ain't going to tell you my name. That's purely a secret for me. Ain't no one going to know what my name is. So, yes. Here we go. Interior, Enchanted Forest, Day. 3 vagabond cousins wander through a forest. There are hundreds of trees and tangled vines that all form clear paths akin to a maze. There are floating orbs of pale yellow and greenish-blue light in the air. They aren't fireflies. They are bright enough to light up the interior of the trees and the tree maze, and they are brighter now that the sun has begun to set. The path is narrow enough that the 3 have to walk in a single-file line. In front, holding the torch, is Nuna Turing, age 22. The middle child of the 3 cousins. Cautious and quiet, she spends more time listening than talking. She carries a medium-sized traveling pack with assorted tools and wears a hooded cloak over her adventuring clothing. She sees the orbs of light coming out of the walls of the path and extinguishes her torch. She packs it away and pulls out a metal lantern. She grabs one of the orbs and places it in the lantern, which amplifies the light, and it glows brighter than the torch did. She looks at the different illuminated paths. This way. Nuna motions to the other 2 who are following close behind. They walk a while down another path, which looks almost identical to the last. The ambient sound of animals and insects get louder the further down this path that they go. There is a loud rustling in the thicket nearby. They stop to look around and check for any signs of branches twitching or leaves shaking in the undergrowth. Nuna scans the area with the lantern as the other 2 assume defensive stances. They begin to inch forward slowly. The second in line, Winslow, begins to draw his sword. He is the oldest of the 3, 28. He's not particularly attractive in a conventional sense, but is rather hench, intelligent, and bold. Excuse me. He carries a small bag of necessities and wears standard adventure garb with a cape. The 3 continue to walk. As they move further down the path, the ambient sounds get even louder. The sound of the rustling in the thicket increases as well the further they go. Alright, time to voice. This dialogue isn't great, but I'm gonna bear with myself. So bear with me. Me think of a good voice for him. Either this direction is an ambush, or we're getting closer to our destination. And here's Nuna. The increasing sound seems to point in the right direction. Is it a spell, you think? Well, for a forest of enchantments, I wouldn't doubt it. Perhaps just one barrier of many. They continue walking until they reach a spot where the path splits into 4 more paths. The third in line, Yulfik, E-U-L-F-I-K, Yulfik, begins to look worried. Nuna shines the lantern down each path. Doomed to wander a cursed forest till death, it's quite a deterrent. I only hope that this isn't the only barrier that I only hope that this isn't the only barrier in the form of a maze. I only hope that this is the only barrier in the form of a maze. I'm gonna think of a better voice. I only hope. Hello. Goodness gracious. I only hope. No. I only hope. No. Let me think. What's a voice I could do? Oh yeah, I only hope this doesn't got anything else going on with it. No, not like that. I only hope this doesn't have. No, that'll be in a second. I only hope this doesn't got other things going on with it. Oh my god. No, nothing like that.
I don't know what's going on over here.
No, not like that either. I'll just do what I was doing. Slightly lighter, more airy. There we go. Yulfik, he is the youngest of the three cousins, age 19, lacks any intimidation in his physique. He has good looks, though, and is shorter than his two cousins. Nuna keeps looking into the four paths for any signs. I wouldn't mind coming back here at some point. You remember what the forest did to Mr. and Mrs. Pachiko? You saw those scrapes, right?
And Mrs. Pachiko came back... and Mr. Pachiko came back mysteriously with rabbit ears. That's definitely not something I'm going to be forgetting anytime soon, even after they've gone back to normal.
Even after they've gone back to normal. Even after they've gone back to normal. Maybe I'll use that for Yulfik. Yeah. Well, old Carrot Top aside, it's no subtlety now that the different paths of the forest have different wonders, is it? Exactly. The Mr. went south and Mrs. north. It means this whole forest is filled with all kinds of mysteries, each different depending on where you enter from. Each different depending on where you enter from. I bet you could spend years in this place and still not have even seen half of what's in here. Exposition. I'm not a fan of all this exposition. I would change so much of this now. But anyway.
Well, we can add Cryptic Maze to our map once we get back. Seems like we've made good progress already.
For now, we should try to keep an eye on our friends in the bushes. If we came in from the north, it's possible that we're bordering with those nasty creatures. Perhaps the threat of sporting some fashionable animal ears is preferable to mauling. The other two laugh. They continue to cautiously trek. The path is leading somewhere. The ambient sound of the forest gets louder and louder. The ambient sound of the forest is the loudest it has been, and the amount of glowing orbs increases. Mrs. Pachiko did say she saw its tracks lead this way. Only makes sense that we check here first. And besides, I don't think a pair of cutesy animal ears would quite match Winslow's manly frame, would they?
I couldn't agree more, but it'd definitely be a look. Maybe if I got some fancy antlers instead of ears, it'd suit me better, huh? It'd suit me better, eh?
Look! Interrupting. Look! 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 Link! Look! I could do that high-pitched voice. Oh, no. Kitten, I tell you, how many times I tell you, you cannot chew on the sponge. No. There you go. Off you go. All right. No, that voice would tire me if I did that. Anyway. Look. The three come to the end of the path. In front of them forms a gate of glowing mist. They give each other affirming glances and pass through. Interior, true forest, tree dome, night. The other side of the mist leads to the inside of an enclosed dome. Like the previous area, it is made completely out of trees, vines, and other vegetation. In the center is a group of large trees with thick stumps the size of a house. Their branches reach all the way to the top of the dome. The roots form a large portion of the floor, along with flowers and grass. Some of the roots form the walls. Some are fused with the trees and the vines that form the walls. Ugh, so much to condense. Surrounding the branches of the trees is the largest concentration of glowing orbs. They light up the entire space. The sky is barely visible. The cousins look on in awe. Nuna walks towards the trees in the center. The others scan around the edge. Nuna notices that the trees are actually one tree, made of several large trees fused together. There is a door in the stump. Continued. Hey, I think I found something over here. Oh, what have you got? Some kind of... She reaches for the doorknob. The rustling in the thicket returns louder and in all directions, the same with the animal and insect sounds. Some kind of door. Nuna attaches the lamp to a holster on her bag. The three rush to each other and go back to back. They pull out their weapons. The thicket shakes violently with the sounds of creaking branches. A monster emerges from the undergrowth and comes into the light. A foul creature. A Bugawk. That's spelled Bugawk. A chimera with the top body and head of a chicken, but the arms and partial body of a bug. Unpleasant to look at. You don't think that's it, do you? Was it a rooster? I think she said it was a hen. It was a hen. A dozen more Bugawks emerge. They surround the three cousins on all sides. 6 are on the left and 6 to the right, and 1 in the middle. The left and right groups spread out. The left and right groups spread out all their sets of wings to form a surrounding wall around the three cousins. So, we each take 4? Even split? Whoever finishes first can take the one in the middle. Sounds good to me. They shout and jump forward to attack. The Bugawk in the middle is unfazed. Its beak opens and a voice speaks. All right, time for a witch voice. Mysterious voice. Not so fast. They stop, cold, frozen in confusion. Cretans of the West, how dare you enter my enchanted grove? First you unceremoniously invite yourselves to this Midland, and now you think you can just let yourselves anywhere you please. This is my land to live in peaceful solitude. Be gone! Not until you give us back Mrs. Pachico's chicken. The chicken? The mysterious voice laughs, a cackling old witch laugh. Any creature who enters this forest belongs to me, though I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. I will say she is quite a prize winner, but hardly worth risking your worthless lives for. The cousins attack. Several Bugawks are slain. The talking Bugawk dodges as the others jump in the way and take the blows meant for it. Mrs. Pachico needs that hen for the little ones. It's one of her few and one of her best. How could you endanger her livelihood? And why should I care about the livelihood of some blousy tramp? You should be grateful I could have left your precious hen to wander about. Had she gone into the wrong part of the forest, she may have ended up one of the nasty creatures you see before you. She's better off with me. The mysterious voice is cut off as Winslow angrily slays the talking Bugawk. The other two finish off the rest. Tension is high. Nuna looks at her cousins. So the forest turns them into the monsters. So all of them were once... But where did they all... I get your meaning. And no other villages or chickens near here, wild or otherwise. This many simply wandering in is a bit suspicious, isn't it? Do you think the one behind the voice is in a sharing mood? Why some mysterious old forest coot would need this many chickens in the first place is a wonder on itself.
We could speculate, but any definitive answers are inside that house. They all turn to look at the door. They approach slowly. They talk too much. So much dialogue I would cut. So much that would just be implied. Why are they talking so much? Saying the obvious. It's not that they're talking so much, it's that they're just saying the obvious. Anyway. They all turn to look at the door. They approach slowly. It's probably got an enchanted lock we'll have to break through. Anyone have holy water? Sorry, no. Well, you were supposed to pack it. How are we going to come all the way to an enchanted forest with no holy water? How are we to come all the way to an enchanted forest with no holy water? No holy water. No holy... just forget it. I'm sorry. Alright, scrolling to the next page. Nuna grabs the handle and opens the door. It wasn't locked. They stand looking in silence as she steps aside and offers them in. She bows. Your Majesty. Yulfik gives a reciprocating curtsy. Thank you, your ladyship. They walk in and close the door behind them. Interior, witch house foyer, night. The inside of the house, like the outside, is made out of wood. There are 2 floors and 3 rounded hallways on the top floor. That should say 3 rounded hallway entrances on the top floor, and 3 rounded hallways on the bottom floor. Various colored glass, bits and bobs and windows, line the walls, shelves, and tables. Some of the bits and bobs and bottles of colored glass are filled with some kind of fluid. A classy, natural feel, with warm, calm lighting from various lanterns hanging around. A portrait with 4 figures hangs on the wall. That's figures as in people, not as in, monetary figures. All right, search for any clues on where a chicken might have been. They inspect the foyer. On the first floor, center hallway, Winslow spots a white feather, then sees several more. On the stairs, Nuna spots more feathers leading up the steps. The feathers on the steps are more sporadically placed and don't appear to lead anywhere. There are more in the center hallway and appear to lead down the hall. Let's try this one first. The other 2 agree. They head down the hallway. A sudden gust of wind blows through the center hall. Mysterious voice off screen. Let me think of it better. So you think. Now, which voice? Evil generic witch voice. You think? Hello, my pretty, and your little dog, too. Little dog, and your little dog, too. Okay. So you just couldn't help yourselves. It was bad enough that you got into the forest in the first place, but now I suppose I can add breaking and entering to your list of offenses. Can't you just leave an old woman to her peace? We don't wish any trouble. We just want the chicken and we'll go. With no grief to you. Thick-headed child, have you been listening? I'm not giving it back. Now get out or I will lament the... Thick-headed child, haven't you been listening? I'm not giving it back. Now get out or you will lament the day you crossed Bierwicka the witch. Her last words echo through the foyer, causing some of the glass jars and bottles hanging around to begin vibrating and shaking. They pop and shatter. Pudgy little slime monsters fall out of them. These monsters are considerably cuter than the previous Bagox. Now, her name is revealed to be Bierwicka. I hope you don't mind if my darling pets keep you company. Of course, you're free to leave any time you want. You really think this is enough to scare us? You were better off with the nasties outside than this sorry lot you've got in here. Nuna turns to her cousins. We don't have time to waste on fighting simple slimes.
Make a run for it down the hall. Keep an eye on the trail of feathers and keep checking for more clues. That's our best chance. They beeline it down the hallway. The slimes fuse together to form an even bigger slime. It chases them with concerning speed. Everyone runs at full pace. Up ahead, there is a stairwell on the left, a hall leading right, and a smaller center hall continuing straight forward. With a quick look and a gesture, the cousins split up. Winslow takes the left stairway to the second floor. Nuna takes the center hallway. Yulfik goes to the right hall, where the trail of feathers continues. The giant slime splits once again into smaller... The giant slime splits into 3 smaller but still sizable slimes, each one chasing one of the 3 cousins. The split slimes are slower than the large slime and a bit slower than the cousins. Nuna runs and knocks over lamps, shelves, and other objects she can use to block the path. The slime lags behind but gets around the objects on the ground. It jumps and attaches itself to the gnarly tree ceiling, and chases unimpeded. The gap between itself and Nuna begins to decrease. Interior witch house, 2nd floor hallways, night. The slime struggles to climb the many stairwells on the 2nd floor, which lead to subrooms leading to more stairs. Winslow stays close enough to keep its attention. Interior witch house kitchen, night. Yulfik runs into the kitchen following the trail of hen downs and feathers from the hallway. Chicken downs. He looks around in the low-lit room. Shiny steel pots, pans, knives. Shiny steel pots, pans, and knives hang around. Herbs and vegetables also hang from walls and inside nets and racks. Herbs and vegetables hang from the walls and inside nets and racks attached to the ceiling. There are wood and charcoal stoves. He looks around to check for any signs of chicken dinner. There's no evidence that the facilities have been used recently. The slime approaches from behind. Yulfik shuts the kitchen door, but the slime begins squeezing itself through the gaps of the door frame. Interior witch house, Birwicka's chamber, night. Birwicka paces her chambers. Pachiko's hen is in a hanging bird cage in the corner, feeding on grain. The cage lock is monogrammed HW Academy. Many cauldrons and other magical apparatuses are scattered around. A magic mirror hangs on the wall next to a tiered shelf with potions. Birwicka is pale, has a slight hunch, and a short, gnarly stature. Her big head sports a large beak-like nose. Draped over her head and body is a long bluish veil covered in various patterns, other decorative pieces of cloth, and assorted pieces of jewelry. She stops pacing and looks at her mirror. She sees the rooms and hallways of the house in its reflection. The cousins running around, knocking things over and being intrusive.
Oh, those doddies are making a complete mess of the place. What to do?
She turns and looks at her cauldron.
Yes, that will do nicely.
Interior witch house hallways, night. Nuna smashes all of the lamps in the center hallway. It's completely dark. The slime bobbles blindly. She sits and hides behind a small hallway dresser next to a wardrobe and uncovers her lamp. She lets out the small glowing orb. The slime notices it and chases it. The slime, distracted, Nuna shoves the wardrobe and pushes it on top of the slime. The wardrobe warps and distorts as the slime trapped inside starts to dissolve through it. Nuna pulls out lantern oil and pours it on the wardrobe. She pulls out her torch, lights it up, and jabs it into the oil. The wardrobe goes up in flames. The slime, which had begun to visibly eat through the wardrobe, bubbles up as it gets hotter and hotter. A small bit of the slime tries to separate and get away. Nuna snatches it up and puts it in her lantern. The main body boils up and bursts. The slime fluid puts out the fire. Nuna puts out her torch, lifts her lantern, and continues down the hall. Interior witch house, second floor hallways, night. Winslow tries to cut through the wall, but it continuously regenerates from the sword swings, like living tissue. He grabs his small bag and pulls out a pellet explosive. He throws it at the wall. Poof! It explodes and leads a large enough hole to jump through. The wall begins regenerating. The slime finally catches up and rushes towards him. Winslow jumps through the hole before it shrinks too much. The slime jumps but is caught by the wall and partially split as the shrinking hole slices through it. Winslow draws his sword and attacks the chunk that fell through on his end. A few strong swings and the slime melts into a puddle. He sheathes his sword. He turns around and a hen is standing there at the end of the hall. Winslow stares at it for a moment. The hen looks back at him and turns to walk away. He rushes and goes for a lunge to grab it. The hen, startled, runs through the wall as Winslow is about to catch it. His head collides with the wall.
What in the name of...
And then it cuts. Interior witch house kitchen, night. Yulfik runs through the kitchen looking for anything to use as a weapon. The slime squeezes through the door in large chunks, resistant to sword slashes. Yulfik grabs a bowl, filled with large salt chunks off the counter. He throws a few into the growing slime. The salt dissolves as the slime fully regenerates. The slime is now noticeably smaller than it was before. Yeah, the salt dissolves as the slime regenerates. The slime is now noticeably smaller than it was before. And I guess I didn't really specify. The salt dissolved it and like dehydrated it, so now it's like kind of shriveling up a little bit. Yulfik grabs a meat tenderizer from a rack and smashes it. Grabs a meat tenderizer from my rack. Anyway, Yulfik grabs a meat tenderizer from a rack and smashes it into the slime. It causes the slime to blob and wobble back and forth. No noticeable damage except for small impact holes. He throws salt into the wounds. The salted areas harden and crack. He repeats this process several more times. The slime's body begins to shrink and flake. He slashes it with his sword and cleaves a large gash on the slime. Yulfik is about to attack again when the slime's insides begin to glow. It shrinks and condenses. As it condenses, the heat in the kitchen rises as a squeal slowly builds from the condensing slime like steam. Yulfik grabs a large steel cauldron by the handles and smashes it into the slime. It bounces off the condensed slime. He watches as the explosive glow and the steam squeal get brighter and louder. Interior witch house, Bierwicka's chamber, night. Bierwicka stands over a large black cauldron. It glows with a vortex of magic inside. She adds a few ingredients and laughs.
Terrifying cauldron of night, I call upon your foul enchants. Grant me means to rid myself of these pests.
The cauldron glows brighter. Bierwicka laughs. The hen is asleep.
A little fright for your night, little wanderers.
Anyway. Interior, witch house, second floor, hallways, night. Winslow is lost. He ascends another stairwell as Bierwicka's voice is heard throughout the whole house.
Attention, foul interlopers! I have been nothing if merciful to you, but you have tested my patience, and would not heed my warnings. However, I am not incorrigible. I am willing to give you one more chance to rectify your barbaric behavior. You have but to make one critical choice. Leave and never return!
Are you deaf? We've already given you our answer.
Then you leave me no alternative. I lay a curse upon your family. Your history shall be stained by calamity and destruction. No matter where you wander, you shall encounter opposition and hardship. I curse you to be hunted by the forces of dark.
Shut your mouth, you decrepit old hag!
God, what is wrong with the youth of this generation? No respect for your elders. Gah! It never ends with you. Now shut up! Where was I? Oh, yes! A curse! I curse you to be hunted by the forces of darkness and...
Interior, witch house hallways, night. As Beerwicka continues her spell, Nuna Travers Town. Nuna travels the halls. The slime in the lantern vibrates the closer it gets to the sound of Beerwicka's voice. After many twists and turns, Nuna sees a door with a green light flashing behind it. She creeps open the door and sees a witch yelling angrily over a cauldron. The slime bobbles violently. Nuna looks at the hen in the corner, still sleeping. Interior witch house, Beerwicka's chamber, night. Nuna leaves the lantern outside the door and sneaks in. She closes the door and quietly inches her way to the birdcage. Beerwicka is preoccupied. The noises of the incantation drown out any noise that Nuna makes. She reaches the cage and opens the door, grabs the hen and turns to leave. The hen wakes up. Hen. Beerwicka stops. She turns around and sees Nuna standing there. They stare at each other for a moment. Who? A cauldron bursts through the right wall. It nearly hits Beerwicka on the way through. It smashes into the left wall and crushes a table and some potion bottles. Inside of the cauldron is a self-destructing slime. Beerwicka looks at the slime in the cauldron, dazed and confused. It looks at her. Slime in the cauldron.
Goodbye, Mama. Huh? What?
It explodes, taking out a portion of the wall and ceiling, and shattering much of the glass in the room. Interior witch house, second floor hallway, night. Winslow outruns the hen. He jumps for it and successfully catches it. He jumps in victory. The floor under him rumbles. He hears the sound.
What is that sound? Ah!
No, it's word pain.
What is that sound?
Whoa! The floor gives through. Ah! Or let me think of it. Let me imagine falling through the floor. Oh! There we go. Something like that. Interior, witch house, Beerwicka's chamber, night. The ceiling caves in. Winslow falls from the second floor, a hen in hand, and barely manages to dodge Beerwicka's cauldron. His pouch falls into the cauldron anyway, however. The pellet explosives in his bag react with the magic substance inside the cauldron. It catches fire. So there were two cauldrons. There was a cooking cauldron and there's a magic cauldron. They're two separate things. They would, physically they would look different. Anyway. The pellet explosives in his bag react with the magic substance. It catches fire and explodes like fireworks. Everyone gets down. After the explosion ends and the smoke clears, everyone in the room gets up. Pachiko's hen was dazed and so startled that it passed out. Yulfik runs in to see what happened. Beerwicka turns around.
You morons! Look what you've done to my house! Oh, my potions! Practically irreplaceable! So much time lost! Do you have any idea how long this will take to fix? Gah! I will make you pay, Oh.
The cousins group together and stare her down. Beerwicka retracts. Fine. Take your
half-witted hen. I only needed some fresh feathers for a concoction I was working on anyway. I was going to return her sooner or later.
Nuna walks over and grabs the hen and hands it to Winslow. Winslow sets down the hen he was holding and grabs Pachiko's hen. Beerwicka pips up and grabs the other hen. She puts it in the cage.
I'll deal with you later. Oh, yes, I'll deal with you later.
Anyway, she turns to face the cousins. Nuna, like we promised, we'll leave.
Yes, good. Get out! The orbs of light will show you the way back to your shanty town.
That was a weird delivery.
Yes, good. Get out! The orbs of light will show you the way back to your little shanty town. Back to your little shanty town. Now leave!
The vagabonds leave, heading out the door. Nuna retrieves her lantern and lets out the tiny slime. The holes in the wall and ceiling are already regenerating.
Goodbye! Goodbye!
Interior, true forest tree dome, night. The cousins exit safely back into the dome. The orbs of light form a trail that lead directly to the forest exit. Ha. Well, let's get going. Do you still feel like you want to come back here later? Maybe not for a while. How's the hen?
She's fine. Took a bit of a shock, but nothing serious.
That's good. Mrs. and Mr. Pacheco will be very happy. By the way, what were you doing up there for so long? Don't tell me your sense of direction is so poor. Winslow blushes. They follow the path of light.
It wasn't just that. There was the other hen up there with me. It was passing through walls and so on. I spent ages chasing the little menace. I finally caught it when I fell through the blasted floor.
Nuna laughs. And that could explain it. At first I thought the trail I followed didn't lead anywhere. But when I was looking for where to toss the slime, I noticed a trail of feathers.
I noticed a trail of feathers leading up to a crack in the wall. Just a moment of intuition, I suppose, but that's where I threw it. I may have your disappearing friend to thank for that.
So basically, the way I would better convey it now is that chicken was phasing through walls, and the trail of feathers that Yulfik followed was the trail of feathers from that other chicken. And he knew where to toss the slime because he followed the trail of feathers and saw that it suddenly ended at a crack in the wall, as if the chicken had, well, it did pass through the wall earlier that day. Anyway, that's the explanation for that. Anyway, strange. Well, we'll have more time to think about it. We'll have more time to think it over when we get back. They continue their trek home. Bierwicka watches from a hidden window, holding hen feathers. Interior witch house hallways, night.
Whew! They're finally gone. They're finally gone. They're finally gone.
There we go.
I am Bierwicka the witch. How dare you intrude upon my home? Whew! They're finally gone.
There we go. I finally, right at the end. She turns to walk. She surveys the damage. Notes, new lanterns, potion supplies, 2 cauldrons, a wardrobe, and some salt, as well as numerous damages to her chambers to be repaired. She heads upstairs. Interior witch house, 2nd floor hallway, night. She finds the remaining slime near the healed wall. She pets it and sends it to her chambers. She takes a few more turns, walking past the regenerated spot where Winslow had fallen. After a few more turns, she stands before a door. It's ornate compared to the rest of the doors, with gold trimmings. A small sign hangs from it, reading, "Study occupied."
I believe all this trouble was worth it.
Bierwicka smiles. She opens the door and walks in. Interior witch house study, night. Inside this room are many shelves filled with books. In the middle sits a desk where a young woman writes. Stacks of books and paper are on both sides of her, as well as a plethora of bottles filled with various objects, creatures, and ingredients. A light shines, focused above her work. The rest of the room is dim. On her side is a small pot with a boiling experiment. She looks up. Her name is Murdoch. Murdoch is the daughter of Bierwicka.
Oh, Mother, you're back. Were you able to get them?
That's just the first thing that came to mind.
Yes, of course, little one. A plume of fresh hen's feathers and downs, just like you asked.
Murdoch smiles. Her face shows signs of fatigue.
Tell me, how goes your final thesis? Tell me, how goes your final thesis? It's going well now. Even better now that I have these feathers. I was a bit worried at first with my first experiment. Turning that paltry permeable was a complete accident. But when it escaped, I had thought I was doomed, that all hope was lost.
So, turning that poultry permeable, she was the one who made it so that the chicken would be able to phase through walls. Bierwicka chuckles. Flashback. Bierwicka chases the hen around the house and into the kitchen. She jumps for the hen. Startled, the hen runs and phases through the wall and out of the kitchen. She smacks her face smacks into the wall, leaving a crack. And I imagine you see the crack, like, and then it forms the crack. Flashback end.
Wherever did you find these feathers?
They look different from the ones on the hen the Academy lent me.
Let's just say I have a certain call with animals.
Flashback. Bierwicka casts a spell at her cauldron to summon chickens to her location. Most of them enter the forest and end up becoming monsters. Another group gets attacked by wild animals. Bierwicka watches in anguish from her mirror. Getting excited when she sees a few chickens when she sees Mrs. Pachico's chicken make it through the forest. Flashback end. Bierwicka sighs, smiles, and turns to leave Murdoch to her studies.
Oh, by the way, I thought I heard a loud noise earlier. Is everything all right? Oh, yes. Just a project of mine that got a little out of hand. I took care of it, but now I'm down. Oh, yes, just a little project of mine that got a little out of hand. I took care of it, but now I'm a little tired. I think I'm going to go lay down.
All right. Good night, Mother. Good night.
All right. Good night, Mother. Good night, little one.
Bierwicka exits. Interior witch house study night. Murdoch works late into the midnight hours. She feels a bit stuffy being tucked away in the study. She goes for a walk around the house. Interior witch house hallways night. Good luck. Anyway. She strolls through the halls and notices some furniture out of place or missing. This is not unusual, as furniture is rearranged often. She continues on until she comes... Again, that's more narrative, novel-like. You wouldn't put that in the screen. You would like, imply... Anyway, she continues on until she comes to the chamber. She walks inside. Interior witch house, Bierwicka's chambers, night. Murdoch notices the lack of bottles, potions, and other furniture items. She notices the birdcage, the magic cage. Courtesy of Hogwash Academy of Alchemy and Enchantment. Hogwash Academy of Alchemy and Enchantment. Anyway. Oh, I see what I was going for with that. She notices the birdcage. The magic cage, courtesy of Hogwash Academy of Alchemy and Enchantment, keeps the hen inside from escaping. And that would be the hen who can, phase through walls. It's a magic cage, so it can't leave. Rebottled slimes hang from the ceiling. Her eyes focus. She notices her mother's cauldron is damaged. A note hangs from the cauldron that says, "Reminder, demonstrify the poultry." Murdoch. Must have been a volatile recipe. Murdoch looks at it a while longer. She turns to the mirror. Magic mirror, please tell me, what was the last enchant conducted in this cauldron? The magic mirror dimly glows. Or, some kind of noise to indicate magic.
I lay a curse upon your family. You shall encounter opposition and hardship, calamity and destruction by the forces of the dark god. Generations shall end.
Murdoch's expression becomes perplexed and anxious. What?
What? What? What?
What?
Anyway.
What? Why would Mother... Magic mirror, on whose family is this curse?
Exterior village border, night. The three cousins walk and speak. The three cousins walk and hold casual conversation. Their village is ahead, and with hen in hand, they are welcomed back by the villagers, along with Mrs. Pacheco, holding lanterns in the night. A dark cloud looms near the moon. Continued, magic mirror, vagabonds, or whatever magic voice, vagabonds. Yeah. And, that's it. Yeah, that's the whole thing. All right. I've been going for a while, so I'm gonna stop there. And, phew, I don't know. If you heard all that and went through all of it, let me know what you think. That's old me's writing. But I still like it. There are still lots of things about that I enjoy. And I read 2 things, so, whatever you think about those two things. But yeah, that's it for now.